Hi Damien and Clinton, thanks very much for agreeing to do a blog today for Scottish Adoption. In your own words and in any way you like, you just want to tell us a wee bit about how this adoption process and your journey has been for you both.
Just before we begin, we have a monkey wandering around, so you can hear her.
You can hear her in the back.
So if we have been talking about adoption for years. We have been together for 14 years, and so at least half of that we've been discussing whether or not we were going to have a child. And we always knew we were going to adopt. We didn't want to go down surrogacy, although those options were all available to us. We knew that we wanted to adopt. And so our friends were growing up. They had children. We were sort of more involved with their lives as well. And up until that point, the timing wasn't right for us. We didn't have enough resource. We didn't have the right house. We didn't have all those kind of tick box life moments that we thought we would need before we then brought a child into our life. And so one day we were driving back from a friend's house with having seen their boys, and we were having a conversation. We just knew it was right. We knew that this was the time that we should start really investigating having one of our own. So we had a contact at Scottish Adoption who was quite forward in saying to research other adoptive agencies, and so we did. We got involved with the council. We got involved with researched the Catholic one in Edinburgh. We also came to Scottish Adoption, and all of them came around to the house. All of them had a conversation with us, and actually we went with the one that was for us the most comfortable, familiar, and the one that looked as if they were going to partner us in our journey, and that was Scottish Adoption. We liked all the things they were saying when they came around about aftercare, and we liked their services that they offered for journey.
Mm-hmm.
So
they came across very personable to us. The others were asking questions. Being a gay couple, they weren't 100% open to taking us on. They were going to take us on board because they had to, is what our impression was. With Scottish Adoption, they embraced us, and we were just another couple that wanted to have a child, and they wanted to help us with that. So yeah, they were very personable to us, and we didn't feel as if we were just a number to them or tactics exercise or anything like that. Like I said, there's a lot of support that goes around the Scottish Adoption that we really were interested in as well. Aftercare support, speaking to friends and family, helping them understand what adoption is and how that affects us as a family and themselves as well, how they have to behave, which we thought was quite amazing actually. So that's why we picked Scottish Adoption. And then we went to the prep group. The prep group was a few days of pretty intense learning about adoption, and it had a lot of information for us to take in. We changed some of our views. We always wanted to adopt, and it just sort of made that real to us that yes, adoption is the right way to go for us. But it opened our eyes up to a lot of different things as well, where children come from, what their backgrounds could be, things like that, which I found quite interesting.
Parenting styles to cope with various developmental issues that may be delayed or stunted or whatever.
Yeah, but it gave us a good guide on where to look to find more information and what the situations were. One of the things that changed for me was contact. I was adamant I didn't want to have contact with birth parents or our child's family in any way, shape or form. Partly because I was selfish and I wanted the child for myself and this is my child. What prep group actually did was change the whole perception. Our child is our child. She's wholly ours and we don't share it with anyone. But the contact that we have means that when she gets to a certain age and she starts building her identity, there's contact that she can ask questions that we can't answer, and it helps her become a better person for herself. So Prep group for us was really interesting. It was grueling, but really interesting.
Yeah.
One of the things I suppose we were thinking, and a lot of people who are going into this will be thinking, is how quickly can we adopt? I want my child, and I want my child now. We had exact same thought. What we came to realize was the process is long. It's a longer process, but it's worth it. I would never change that for the world now. I wanted to have a child within 2 months. We got our little one after a year and a bit, and I would not change it. I think it can take longer, but we learned so much during that process on how to parent in certain ways. We learned so much about ourselves, what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are, and all of that plays such an important role now that she's in our house. So yes, it might be a longer process, but all of our friends who have had children, birth children, wish that they went through the process, because it prepared us a whole lot for what we're doing now as parents.
Yeah.
So after prep group, we
officially applied.
You officially applied,
and then waited to be assigned a social worker. And so we were assigned fairly quickly.
We were assigned fairly quickly, yeah. That is one of the things Scottish Adoption do. They assign you with social work quite quickly, and the council and the other folk we spoke to, it's a longer process. So, that was quite good for us, that we could get moving with things. We could start meeting with somebody and speaking about the process and what's going to happen. So yeah, we had a social worker walk up, Louise, who's asking us questions, refuses to be in front of the camera. And we were pleasantly surprised actually when Louise walked up, because our opinion of social workers, sorry Louise, was that they're there to check up on you, to see whether you are going to be good parents, whether you're going to be fit to be parents. And yes, of course, that's part of the role. But the way Louise handled it, and the way that a lot of Scottish Adoption social workers handle it, is like a friend.
They become familiar in your house, so you sit down and have some soup together, as opposed to sit with your social worker and a clipboard.
Yeah.
There wasn't a clipboard.
No.
There was a conversation over cups of tea, fairy cakes that Louise insisted we buy and never ate, and soup, and it was more of a friend relationship situation. So and that put us at ease, and therefore it allowed us to open up better, and be more honest about the process and about what our situation would look like with a child and how we would cope with that.
Yeah.
And so it was very honest and open and familiar and easy process.
Yes, it was a very easy, open process. It was grueling and tough at times. There were tears, there were good times, laughs. What I would say is, when I went into it thinking the social worker is going to come into my house, I have to have the house tidy. I have to have everything spotless. I have to be perfect. I have to be the perfect person. That's not the case. That's one thing I learned from the process, is I can be who I am. My ugly parts and my good parts. Purely because if Louise doesn't think that my ugly parts are going to work for a child, then I can't have a child coming into our house. I need to be honest. Or if the ugly parts actually become a strength later on because it means that I understand what a child could be going through. It's all these things. So it is a matter of you just be as honest as you need to be and tell them, we told you everything that we were, so that you could guide us down the right path on what child will be perfect for our family unit, so that once a child comes in who has and is screaming at us, it works and it's the best thing for us. The home study was 6 months?
Yeah.
6 months of lots of questions and emails and chats, and it was good. We learned a lot about ourselves, and we actually learned a lot about each other and our relationship too, and how we work as a couple. Because before the process you think, yes, we work, and it just happens. Mm-hmm. What you don't realise is when a child comes into your home, you have to integrate another person. This child is a little person with their own characters, with their own demands. And you have to then mould your relationship, and your individual person has to mould around this other person and bring them in. And you all three have to then find that balance somehow and make it work. And if you don't know yourselves or your relationships, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, that becomes a very difficult process. So yeah, the home study was great for us. We really enjoyed it. And we loved eating fairy cakes that Louise left behind.
Yeah, it did give us an excuse to have like cakes most nights of the week.
Most nights of the week.
So that was handy. That process, how long was that?
6 months?
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah, and then we compiled a book
We didn't compile it.
War and Peace.
of War and
Yeah.
Peace. So
Louise compiled it for us.
Louise said it was 17,000 pages. I think it's 17,000 words. So I was thinking that's umpteen Harry Potter books. And that then went to panel, and we got panel day to go.
Yeah.
And we were pretty nervous about that.
Yeah.
We were quite, this is the culmination of 9 months of work, which at times is exhausting, at times is kind of, mentally draining, and suddenly you're in front of people who can make the decision as to whether or not that work has been worth it. There then, sure, if we hadn't gone through, we would have tried again.
Yeah.
But you kind of want the affirmation, and you want somebody to give you the rubber stamp almost and say, yeah, we think you would be great parents.
You're an improved parent.
You're an approved parent. So we went to Scottish Adoption Office, waited upstairs, like 3 or 4 other couples on the same day.
Yeah.
Had tea shakily and tried to eat as much of the bourbon chocolate biscuits downstairs as possible, and then waited to be called. And the chair of that panel came up, sat with us, explained the process, explained what kind of questions they may ask us, and that they've got a question each sort of thing. So, and we went down. The questions weren't anything we hadn't answered already. They were, one of them was more pointedly put for us, so we were kind of struggled, but actually Louise was there to help us along with that. We didn't understand the question, so Louise was there to help us understand and help us answer it and say, remember when you said, we're like, okay, yeah, cool, this is what we're being asked of. So it was good. We then we left the panel, went upstairs, and we heard a thundering of
running up the stairs
from Louise to tell us that we'd
been improved.
Yeah.
Damien started crying. I held my cool. But that was a great feeling to be told that yes, you are approved parent and you can now start your search for your child. So yeah, the next stage essentially was looking for a child. Yes, we celebrated that night, and then we started the look pretty much straight away.
Louise took us for a Michelin star.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool.
That's just pretty cool. But yeah, we started looking pretty much straight away. The next week we went to an exchange day where you can see profiles of children who are needing homes and things like that. Yeah. That was tough. For us, that was an eye-opener, not just on how many children need homes, but also how many people are looking to adopt, and you are essentially in competition with other people for children. And that was an eye-opener. So after that, we spoke about the exchange day. We said we weren't going to go to an exchange day again, and we wanted actually to mean something. We wanted Louise to take our form and match it with a form and go through that process. For us, that was the right process to follow.
We didn't want to bypass all that work almost by saying, I'd like to... we felt we would be bypassing a lot of the work that we'd done with Louise, and actually the experience and expertise of Scottish adoption by going that route. But we fully understand anybody who chooses to do that. Yeah. And for us, it wasn't right for us.
It does work. People do
find a match
at exchange days, and it works. But for us, we trusted Louise.
Yes.
And we wanted her to find us the right match. Yeah. which she did really well actually, because we got a phone call from Judy, because Louise was on holiday, but Louise had been putting her feelers out, and a social worker had come to Louise with a little girl who needed a home. And because Louise was away, Judy, her manager, phoned us one night and said, there's somebody, would you be interested? Gave us some details, not too much, but gave us some details, so we knew the good parts and the bad parts of this possible match.
Yeah.
And it sounded perfect.